Hey guys, what's going on? It's Clever Techie, and in this video we're going to be continuing covering top 100 PHP functions, and we're going to cover function 31 through 40 that I have highlighted here. So the first one is numeric, and this function simply finds whether a variable is a number or a numeric string. So it's going to return a boolean, which is true or false, and it takes only one parameter, which is a mixed type variable. So the variable can be any type to check if it's numeric or not. So let's create an example here. So let's suppose we have an array called numbers, and I'm just gonna put a bunch of random numbers here. Gonna put a number in a string, a float number, null, and just a simple text string. So that we can create a loop to loop through all these array values. Gonna use for each loop. Let's say numbers as value. And then we can just say if is numeric value, then we can just print out. I'm gonna use a function called var export to export the actual representation of the variable. So the representation of the variable is what you actually see here. So it's the whole thing with the quotes, and that's exactly what var export does. It's going to get this representation of the variable and print it to the screen instead of just this part. So same for the null and all the other variables. Okay, so that's why we're using var export value, and then we can just say is numeric. And if it's not numeric, we're just gonna use the same thing, export value. I'm just gonna say is not numeric. Alright, let's see what we got. Okay, so 100 is numeric, 1337 is numeric, 42, so you can see the representation of the variable, what the var export did. It printed the actual value with the quotes here. And it's numeric because it's a number inside the quotes. 5.5 is numeric, null is not numeric, and the quotes is not, the string inside the quotes is not numeric either. Now I'm actually surprised that this one is numeric, but yeah, I guess that's true because it checks for numeric string. Let me just make sure. Yeah, 42 in string is numeric. So if a number is inside the quotes, it's considered numeric as well. Alright, so that's it for is numeric. Let's move on to the next one, which is array shift. Okay, let me just look it up in PHP manual first so we can see the structure of the function. Okay, so array shift an element of the beginning of the array. So it's going to return a mixed because we don't know what the variable is going to be, and it takes in an array as its only parameter. So it shifts the first value of the array off and returns it. So this is what's important to remember. It's going to basically remove the first value of the array and return it so we can save it in a variable or whatever. And so shortening the array by one element and moving everything down, all numerical array keys will be modified to start counting from 0, while literal keys won't be touched. So it's a really useful function when you just want to remove one value from the array without doing anything else, and it resets the keys for you very conveniently, so you can just it's a very convenient way to remove the key from the array. So let's just use php.net's example here and create an array with some fruits fruit names inside of the array. And then suppose we just wanted to remove the orange from the stack. We can just say array shift stack. And then let me just print the array before we use the array shift, and then we'll I'm just gonna say before array shift just so we can see what the array looks like before we apply the function. Alright, so gonna print it before. And then I'm gonna print it after. Echo after array shift. Alright, let's see what it looks like. Okay, so before array shift is what our array looks like, with the orange still here. And then after array shift, the orange is now gone, and you can see that the array keys have been reset. And instead of orange being key 0, now the banana is key 0. So that's what's meant by PHP resetting the array keys for us. And so where did the orange go? Well, we can just say, since the function returns that shifted element, we can just save it. So we can say fruit equals array shift, and then we can just echo out our fruit and say something like caught fruit, fruit, and that should print out orange. Caught fruit orange. So we shifted the orange off the array, now it's removed and the array keys have been reset. The function has returned the value that has been shifted, and we have saved it inside the fruit variable, and now we're printing it out here. So I think you can see how this all works now. So that's array shift. Let's move on to the next one, which is defined. Okay, so this function just checks if the constant has been defined. So it's a very simple and easy to understand function. Checks whether a given named constant exists and returns a boolean if it does. It returns a boolean, and if it does exist, it's going to be true. If it doesn't, it's going to be false. So we already have a constant defined here, which is br. So I'm just gonna apply this function on this constant and say defined br. And I'm just gonna echo it out. So defined, and it's returning true. And if I have some random stuff here like break, now it's not, now the constant is not found because it hasn't been defined. Okay, so this function can also be used if we want to see if the constant has been defined, and if it hasn't been defined, we can define it by using define method. Let's say something like that. So this is just another way to define a constant. So we can do this over here. Instead of using the const keyword, we can do this, and then we'll do the same thing of defining the br constant. And first it will check if the constant has been defined or not. So that's how that function works. All right. Let's move on to the next one, which is dir. So just what the function says, it checks if the given string is a directory or not. another very simple to understand function. Tells whether the file name is a directory, returns a boolean, and takes in the file path or file name as a string. So let me just get a directory. Just grab this wallpapers directory here. And I'm just gonna say echo is dir, paste the directory, and I'm using a ternary operator here, so I can just say it's a directory if it's true, and if it's not a directory, not a directory. It's a directory, hooray! Just gonna echo out PR. And let's just say had something random here, and now it's not a directory because that directory doesn't exist. So that's how that function works. Let's move on to the next one, which is JSON encode. JSON decode. So it's the opposite of JSON encode function that we covered earlier. This time it decodes, so it does exactly the opposite. It converts the JSON string into an array, into a PHP array. So this is the structure of the function, and alright, so I'm just gonna copy this array here, which is in JSON format, and now I'm just gonna print out the array with a pre-r function and say JSON decode JSON. So as you can see, it's printing out the object, but there's also an optional parameter, as you can see here, that we can specify as true, and then if we do that, the array is going to be converted into an associative PHP array. Bam. So that's how you convert a JSON array into a PHP array. Alright, let's move on to the next one, which is header. And header is really useful when you want to redirect a user to another page. So you can just say something like header, and so it takes in a header as a string. So we can say, for example, location https clevertechie.com, and just remember that header must be used above all the PHP code at the very top of the page, otherwise it's not gonna work. So put it all above the page, and now you can see that it's redirecting us to clevertechie.com. Also, if you want to put a delay on when the user is going to be redirected to another page, you can use this. You can say refresh colon 5, and that will redirect the user in 5 seconds if you do this, and then URL equals http clevertechie.com, and then we can just do this to let the user know that they're going to be redirected in 5 seconds, and that should do it. Let's see if it works. So you'll be redirected in about 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here goes the redirect, and bam, we're redirected to clevertechie.com. Or we can just simply click here, and they'll redirect us. It'll link to clevertechie.com. Alright, so that's how header works. I'm just gonna comment it out here. And the next function is str to upper. A lot of these functions here are very self-explanatory. So this one just converts the string to all uppercase. Returns the string with all alphabetic characters converted to uppercase. So that's exactly what it does. And let's just create some random text. and then echo str2 upper text, and that should print the text in all uppercase letters, as you can see here. Okay, that's str2 upper. Let's move on to array values. Array values. So just like we covered array keys, instead of extracting array keys, this will extract all the values from the array. Another easy function. So let's create an array, and let's just say Atari, Prince of Persia, Sega, Sonic, PC, Heroes 3. And let's suppose we wanted to extract all the array values from this associative array. So we can use array values games, and that will extract all the array values, and then it will convert the array into a numeric array. See, so instead of those associative keys, we now have numeric keys, and we have all our values here. So that's array values. Let's move on to MD5. So this is MD5 is not recommended to use with passwords, but we can use it on, I think the best case scenario where we want to use MD5 hash is when a user uploads images, because images can have random characters in them, some and basically they can have an image with the same name, and so we want to make sure that all the images are stored as MD5 hash, because we don't want any duplicates and we don't want any weird characters in our database. So let me just grab an image name here, for example, with this long image name, and then I'm just gonna say image equals that long ass image name here. And then MD5, what it does here is it creates the MD5 hash out of the string. And it returns the hash as a 32-character hexadecimal number. So echo MD5 image. Let's see what it looks like. That's what the 32-character hexadecimal number looks like. And this is how our image name is going to be stored in a database, which is what the MD5 is basically for. Alright, so just make sure you don't use MD5 for storing passwords, because it's not secure. And the last function we got is method exists. And this function just checks if the method exists in a class. So check if the class method exists of the given object, and it returns true or false, and takes in the object as a first parameter and the string as a method name. So we gotta create a class and an object. Okay, so let's create the class. Let's say we have a class human, and we have some functions, or not functions, methods. So inside the class, the functions are called methods. Okay, so those are the three most important methods in a human class. And let's create a new object, new human. So now we have an object named I, which is of human class. So we can check if method exists, and remember the first parameter is an object and the second parameter is a method name. So we're gonna check if method name sex exists inside the human class, and then we're just gonna say method exists if it does, and if it doesn't, method doesn't exist. Method exists. And that's how easy it is to check if the method exists inside the class. And let's just say drink. Now the method doesn't exist because we haven't defined it. And that's it for these 10 functions. And in the next video, we're going to be continuing covering the next set of functions, which are 41 through 50. And I hope you guys liked this video. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Clever Techie out.